By photographing so much, I think it's like a way of sort of asking questions about the place that you're in. But I think the big aesthetic question I'm asking is, how on earth do you make sense of yourself as a tiny, tiny individual human being in a landscape this big and this intimidating? It was poetry in motion, that was. It was extraordinary, so beautiful, and quite frightening being that close to it. And seeing the landscape just flicker through it as the train went past was fantastic. I don't know whether it's because you come here with so many sort of romantic ideas of the West that you're inclined to see everything in this kind of romantic light. But with this environment, it's very hard not to. It's extraordinarily beautiful just as you walk into it.
I love what's happening right now. Okay, so look at the white walls.
Yeah.
And then look up at the underside of the roof and it's green.
Yeah.
Because the grass is being reflected. So you have a light show of grass on the underside of the roof. You can put it into words, but you get into this sort of captured space of the artist. And this is during the daytime, just with the sky itself framed.
Yeah, I mean, what we've noticed since arriving in Houston is that Texan skies seem different to skies anywhere else. Is there anything definable about a Texas sky, you think, that is helping make this space?
I've had the same experience in West Texas, standing in a field out, next to Donald Judd's works with the Texas sky. Something the artist does, he frames the sky in a way that says, look up. It may be the first time that day that you got out of yourself, that you released yourself from your own thoughts, and you look up, and there's no wall on the other side.
That's why we're driving a convertible. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous to be driving a convertible in this weather, but...
And I salute you doing that in black clothes.
Yeah.
I mean...
One of the things I'm really keen to do on this road trip is look at how the vastness of the Texan landscape affects people's perception and how that is manifested through art, whether that is what people might think of as low art or high art in galleries.
We are in San Antonio at San Angel Folk Art, and it's a self-taught gallery with all different labels: outsider art, self-taught, ethnographic art, contemporaries, marginals.
To make that clearer, everybody who works in here is an artist who kind of works outside of the traditional art world?
Right. They're making work like your great aunt made quilts. She's not trying to get in a New York gallery. She's not trying to have a show at the Met. She's just she just wants to work. She wants to make. She's full of energy and ready to create.
And is there anything about Texas in particular you think that inspires people to make art?
Texas is a frontier, and it's still, San Antonio is at the end of the frontier land, and we're this hodgepodge of cultures and diversities. So there's all this mix of cultures that creates a really unique diversity and a unique landscape in the art world, I would say.
So we've got another nice homemade map here, and we are heading, ultimately, we've got the biggest drive of the trip so far. We're going to go to Marfa, Texas, which is the home of the Donald Judd Foundation. But that is about 6.5 hours on a boring interstate, and about 8.5, possibly 9 hours if we're going to go the interesting way. So we are going the interesting way, but a good road trip is also effectively a leap into the void. And so we screwed up earlier, got lost, and that screwed up the schedule. And then we were going to stay somewhere over there, about 100 miles over there. Marfa, Texas is about 200 miles that way, and we just decided, you know what, let's just go. And
The monkey speaks his mind. And you never known a mother monk to leave the
Over there it looks very much like the Texas we're used to, of these kind of strip malls and gas stations and fast food joints. Down there in the town, initially it looks like a small Texan town, but it's full of artists. So it's got a very, very different but really nice feeling in the heart of town there. What's the point of showing so much art in Marfa?
Marfa was an interesting place long before Donald Judd arrived in the 70s, and this region has always been a retreat for either the Texas music scene or for people that wanted to escape from a city and work on a ranch and live in a remote, beautiful place. And so I think we exist in that tradition of seeking beauty, of seeking solitude. There's space here to think, and whether you want to do that around a campfire, after a long day of ranch work, or you want to do that because you're a creative person and you need to contemplate, to think about your practice. We all benefit from what Marfa has to offer.
This sign that says Marfa up here, the light that's coming off it is beautiful, and you can see they've got this extraordinary skyscape behind us. And the city itself is extremely beautiful. But I don't know whether it is the presence of so many artists here, or whether it has to do with the nature of the place itself. But I'm going to say something extremely pretentious now, but it is like a landscape of the mind, but at the same time one that is properly grounded in reality, the reality of a Camaro. Now we're now going along South Lamar Boulevard in Austin. We drove all through the night to get here, and we're looking for the South Austin Museum of Popular Culture. Austin actually has a campaign to keep itself weird. So what was the idea behind the museum as a whole?
Well, there was about 8 or 10 of us that have been talking since the 70s, because we really felt like, for one thing, the culture that was being developed and supported and the things that were happening were really important, that someday someone should know about it. And it was clear to us from collecting the posters that our friends were designing that was such an amazing record of what had been going on. And so we really felt like there should be a central repository someday that gathered all this together and helped everybody understand where this all came from.
And what defines Austin creatively as opposed to other Texas cities, would you say?
I think that it's because it's always been a microcosm in the state of Texas. It's always been liberal and forward-thinking. All the different personalities that are drawn here together really make up that whole atmosphere.
If you wanted any further proof that Texas is a place where the boundaries between art and reality are blurred, just come here underneath the Congress Street Bridge to experience the bats coming out for the night, an extraordinary natural phenomenon. Further proof that here in Texas the lines between reality and art are blurred. It's easy to cross the border from one to the other.